You don't exist. Shocking, isn't it? But what if that's not just a wild statement, but the key to true freedom? Most of us spend our lives clinging to an idea of self, defending it, polishing it, fearing its end. But what if that self is nothing more than an illusion? What if letting go of it could set you free from stress, anxiety, and the endless chase for meaning? Welcome to a journey into the profound Buddhist concept of Anatta, or non-self, a truth that has the power to transform not only how you see yourself, but how you live every single day. By understanding this principle, you can break free from ego-driven desires, embrace change without fear, and even let go of the paralyzing anxiety around death. Sounds radical, right? But stick with me, and you'll see just how practical and life-changing these teachings can be. Here's what we'll explore together. 1. Recognize the illusion of the self, understand how the self is constructed, and start seeing through it. 2. Detach from labels and roles. Break free from the identities that limit you. 3. Practice compassion without borders. Build deeper, more meaningful connections with others. 4. Embrace change as part of life. Learn to flow with life's inevitable shifts. 5. Reduce anxiety by letting go of control. Stop wrestling with what you can't control and find peace. 6. Transform relationships through non-attachment. Love more authentically by letting go of expectations. 7. Find freedom from ego-centered desires. Escape the endless cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. 8. Meditate on the nature of the Five Aggregates. See yourself as a dynamic, ever-changing process. 9. Align your actions with the present moment. Live fully in the now. 10. Let go of the fear of death. Reframe the ultimate unknown as a natural part of existence. By the end of this video, you'll have tools not just to understand Anatta, but to apply it in ways that free your mind and enrich your life. So if you're ready to challenge everything you think you know about yourself, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive into the first lesson. Lesson 1. Recognize the illusion of the self. Imagine this. You're standing in front of a mirror, staring at your reflection. You see your face, your eyes, your body. But have you ever wondered who's actually looking back? Is that truly you? Or is it just a collection of traits, experiences, and fleeting thoughts that you've mistakenly tied together under one name? That's where the concept of Anatta, the illusion of self, comes in. It's not just a philosophical idea. It's a wake-up call to see yourself and your life differently. We spend so much time building and defending this idea of me, my goals, my feelings, my opinions. But what if all of that is just temporary? Like sandcastles built on the shore, every wave of life reshapes who you are. The self you think you know is constantly changing. Yet we cling to it as if it's unshakable. Why? Because the illusion of self is comforting. It gives us a sense of control. But here's the truth. Recognizing that this self is an illusion can be one of the most liberating realizations you'll ever have. Think about a time when you felt angry because someone criticized you. What were they really criticizing? Your personality? Your work? Now ask yourself, will that moment matter in 5 years? Probably not. That's because the self they attacked was never fixed to begin with. It's like yelling at clouds, expecting them to stay in place. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you feel the sting of criticism or the rush of pride, pause. Ask yourself, who is feeling this? Is it me, or is it just a reaction to circumstances? By doing this, you start to see how fleeting these emotions and the self they're attached to really are. Recognizing the illusion of self doesn't mean you have to stop caring about your life. Quite the opposite. It means you can stop wasting energy on defending something that isn't permanent. Instead, you can focus on living with more freedom and peace. And once you start letting go of that false sense of control, you'll be ready to explore something deeper, the roles we play, and how they shape us. But that's a story for another lesson. Lesson 2. Detach from labels and roles. Let's get real for a moment. How often do you introduce yourself by what you do, where you're from, or the roles you play in life? I'm a teacher. I'm a parent. I'm from New York. These labels and roles feel like anchors that define who we are. But here's the twist, they don't. They're more like sticky notes slapped onto a much larger, much deeper reality. End of the problem. We often confuse the note for the whole. Think about it, your job title, your social status, even your hobbies, they're all fleeting. Jobs change, relationships evolve, and who you are today isn't who you were 5 years ago. So why cling to these labels as if they're your whole identity? Here's a truth few people talk about. When you tie your self-worth to a role or label, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Because the moment that label shifts or disappears, you're left wondering, who am I now? Take this as an example. Imagine someone who's been a doctor their entire life, and they retire. Suddenly, without that title, they feel lost, even though they're the same person who saved lives and cared for others. The label was just a role they played, not their true essence. Detaching from these labels doesn't mean you have to abandon your responsibilities or stop being proud of your achievements. It simply means recognizing that you're so much more than the words people use to describe you, or the words you use to describe yourself. Try this. The next time you find yourself caught up in a role like, I'm the responsible one of my family, pause and ask, who would I be without this role? What would change if I let it go? This mindset shift allows you to embrace life's transitions without fear. You're no longer shackled to one version of yourself, which means you're free to grow, adapt, and discover new possibilities. And when you stop clinging to those labels, something fascinating happens. You start to see the humanity in others beyond their roles too. But that's a lesson we'll dive into next. Lesson 3. Practice compassion without borders. Picture this, you're standing in a crowded room, surrounded by strangers. Some are laughing, some look stressed, others are lost in thought. Now imagine being able to look at every single person there and feel a deep sense of connection, no matter who they are or what they've done. That's the power of compassion, and it's something the principle of Anatta can help you unlock. When we let go of the rigid idea of self, we also stop seeing others through the lens of separation. Think about it, if the self is an illusion, then so is the line between me and them. This realization allows us to approach people with understanding instead of judgment. After all, we're all just humans navigating the same messy, unpredictable life. Here's a practical way to bring this idea to life. The next time someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of getting angry, pause and imagine what their day might be like. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital or dealing with a tough moment in their life. By shifting your perspective, you're practicing compassion in a real, meaningful way. Or let's say you're at work, and a coworker snaps at you for no apparent reason. Instead of taking it personally, remind yourself that their frustration likely has nothing to do with you. It's just a reaction to whatever they're going through. This doesn't mean you should accept bad behavior, but it does mean you can respond with kindness instead of escalating the tension. Compassion without borders isn't just about being nice. It's about breaking down the walls we build between ourselves and others. It's recognizing that, beneath all the labels and roles, we share the same struggles, fears, and desires. And when you start to live this way, something incredible happens. Your relationships become richer, your conflicts become less intense, and you find peace in places you never expected. And yet, there's one more step to truly embodying this mindset, learning to embrace change, not just in others, but in yourself. But we'll get to that in the next lesson. Lesson 4. Embrace change as part of life. Change. It's the one thing we can all count on, yet it's the thing so many of us resist. Why? Because change feels uncomfortable. It shakes up the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what our lives should look like. But here's the deal, resisting change is like trying to hold back the tide. No matter how hard you fight, the waves are going to come. When you understand Anatta, you realize that the self you're clinging to isn't static. It's fluid, constantly evolving. And if you let go of the need for permanence, change becomes less of a threat and more of an opportunity. Think of it this way. Every shift in your life, big or small, is a chance to rewrite your story. Let's make this practical. Have you ever faced a situation where things didn't go as planned? Maybe you lost a job or a relationship ended. In the moment, it probably felt like the world was crumbling. But if you look back now, can you see how that change opened doors you didn't even know existed? Maybe it forced you to develop a new skill, meet new people, or discover a strength you didn't know you had. Here's a simple exercise to embrace change. Every morning, take a few minutes to reflect on one thing in your life that's different from a year ago. It could be a new habit, a friendship, or even a challenge you've overcome. Write it down and remind yourself that growth often comes from the unexpected. The beauty of change is that it keeps life dynamic and full of possibility. Instead of fearing it, learn to flow with it. When you stop resisting, you start growing. And as you grow, you'll notice something remarkable. The less you cling to control, the more peace you'll find. But what does it mean to truly let go of control? That's a lesson we're about to explore. Lesson 5. Reduce anxiety by letting go of control. Change. It's the one thing we can all count on, yet it's the thing so many of us resist. Why? Because change feels uncomfortable. It shakes up the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what our lives should look like. But here's the deal. Resisting change is like trying to hold back the tide. No matter how hard you fight, the waves are going to come. When you understand Anatta, you realize that the self you're clinging to isn't static. It's fluid, constantly evolving. And if you let go of the need for permanence, change becomes less of a threat and more of an opportunity. Think of it this way. Every shift in your life, big or small, is a chance to rewrite your story. Let's make this practical. Have you ever faced a situation where things didn't go as planned? Maybe you lost a job or a relationship ended. In the moment, it probably felt like the world was crumbling. But if you look back now, can you see how that change opened doors you didn't even know existed? Maybe it forced you to develop a new skill, meet new people, or discover a strength you didn't know you had. Here's a simple exercise to embrace change. Every morning, take a few minutes to reflect on one thing in your life that's different from a year ago. It could be a new habit, a friendship, or even a challenge you've overcome. Write it down and remind yourself that growth often comes from the unexpected. The beauty of change is that it keeps life dynamic and full of possibility. Instead of fearing it, learn to flow with it. When you stop resisting, you start growing. And as you grow, you'll notice something remarkable. The less you cling to control, the more peace you'll find. But what does it mean to truly let go of control? That's a lesson we're about to explore. Lesson 6. Transform relationships through non-attachment. You know that tight, anxious feeling that creeps in when life doesn't go as planned? That relentless need to control every outcome? It's exhausting, isn't it? Here's the truth no one likes to admit. Control is an illusion. The more you try to grip tightly to every detail of life, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you embrace Anatta, the understanding that there's no fixed self in control, it becomes easier to let go and trust the natural flow of things. Think about it. How often does life truly follow your script? Maybe you planned a perfect day, and then it rains. Or you worked tirelessly for a promotion, only to see it go to someone else. These moments feel like personal failures because we tie our worth to outcomes. But when you realize that you're not the sole director of life's play, you can stop taking every twist and turn so personally. Here's a practical way to start letting go of control. Make a list of things you can influence and things you can't. For example, you can control how you react to a rude comment, but you can't control someone else's mood. Focus on what's within your power and let the rest unfold as it will. This shift alone can lighten the emotional load you carry every day. Another practice: set small, flexible goals instead of rigid expectations. Instead of saying, "I must finish this project perfectly by Friday," try, "I'll make progress on this project and adjust as needed." This mindset not only reduces stress, but also leaves room for unexpected opportunities. Letting go of control isn't about giving up. It's about finding freedom in surrender, freedom from the anxiety that comes with trying to manage the unmanageable. And once you free yourself from that weight, you'll find it easier to approach your relationships with openness and understanding. Speaking of relationships, there's a profound lesson in how Anatta transforms the way we connect with others, which we'll explore next. Lesson 7. Find freedom from ego-centered desires. Let's be honest, relationships are often where we cling the hardest. We hold on to people, expectations, and outcomes as if they define us. If they leave, who will I be? If this fails, what does it say about me? But here's the thing, attachment in relationships doesn't make them stronger. In fact, it often makes them fragile, because we end up placing the weight of our identity on someone else's shoulders. And that's a burden no one can carry forever. Anatta teaches us something profound. Relationships flourish when we approach them without clinging. When you stop seeing others as extensions of yourself, your happiness, your security, you allow them to simply be who they are. That's where genuine connection begins. Here's an example. Imagine you're in a romantic relationship and your partner is pursuing a personal goal, like learning a new skill or exploring a career change. If you're attached to a fixed idea of who they should be, you might resist their growth out of fear. It will change the dynamic between you. But if you let go of that attachment and support their evolution, you strengthen the bond instead of stifling it. Try this. The next time you find yourself frustrated with someone close to you, pause and ask, am I upset because they're not meeting my expectations or because I'm genuinely concerned for them? This simple question can shift your mindset from control to compassion. Non-attachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care in a way that's free from demands and conditions. It means loving people for who they are, not for how they fit into your narrative. And when you learn to let go in relationships, you'll discover a surprising truth. The more space you give, the closer you feel. This shift in perspective doesn't just apply to relationships, it's also key to freeing yourself from ego-driven desires. But we'll unpack that in the next lesson. Lesson 8. Meditate on the nature of the five aggregates. Let's face it, most of us spend a good chunk of our lives chasing things we think will make us happy. A bigger house, better job, more recognition. But here's the catch, these desires aren't truly ours. They're often shaped by societal expectations, comparisons, or the fear of being less than. And here's the truth. Chasing desires rooted in ego only creates a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. It's like running on a treadmill. You're working hard, but you're not actually going anywhere. Through Anatta, you begin to see that these ego-centered desires are just another illusion. They're not a reflection of who you really are. They're just fleeting impulses shaped by a false sense of self. And when you let go of these desires, you make room for something far more meaningful, contentment. Here's a practical exercise. Think about something you've been chasing lately, a promotion, a material possession, or even someone's approval. Ask yourself, why do I want this? Is it because it aligns with my values? Or is it because I think it will make me look better to others? You might be surprised by how often the answer points to ego rather than true fulfillment. Instead of fixating on what you don't have, try cultivating gratitude for what's already present in your life. Start small. Write down 3 things you're grateful for each day. Over time, this practice shifts your focus from lack to abundance. Another way to break free from ego-driven desires is to simplify your life. Think of it as decluttering your mind and heart. For example, instead of buying the latest gadget to keep up with trends, invest in experiences that bring lasting joy, like traveling or learning something new. When you stop letting your ego dictate your desires, you discover a kind of freedom that no possession or achievement can provide. And with this freedom, you can turn your attention to something deeper, the interconnected nature of all things. But we'll dive into that next. Lesson 9. Align your actions with the present moment. Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. Now imagine peeling back the layers of what you think makes you you. Your body, your thoughts, your memories, your emotions, they all feel so integral to your identity, don't they? But when you really examine them, you realize that each of these is just a piece of a puzzle that's constantly rearranging itself. This is where the five aggregates, or skandhas, come into play. The skandhas, form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, are like actors on a stage. They play their roles brilliantly, making it seem like there's a solid self at the center. But when the curtain falls, you see that the self is just a performance. The beauty of Anatta is that it allows you to step backstage and see how the show is put together. Let's break it down with an example. Imagine you're sitting in traffic, and frustration starts bubbling up. What's really happening here? Your form, the body, feels tension. Your sensation registers discomfort. Your perception labels the situation as bad. Your mental formations add a story. This always happens to me. And your consciousness ties it all together. But here's the kicker. None of these things are permanent. They arise, interact, and fade like waves on the ocean. So, how do you apply this in daily life? Meditation is your best tool. Try this. The next time you're overwhelmed, sit quietly and observe your experience through the lens of the skandhas. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What thoughts are passing through? How does my body react? By doing this, you create distance between yourself and the moment, allowing you to respond with clarity instead of reactivity. Understanding the five aggregates isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a way to untangle yourself from the illusion of permanence. And as you begin to see these layers for what they are, you'll notice a profound shift in how you approach life. This newfound awareness also reshapes how you live in the present, which leads us seamlessly to the next lesson. Lesson 10. Let go of the fear of death. Let's talk about something most people avoid, death. Just saying the word can send shivers down your spine, right? But why does it scare us so much? It's because we see it as the end of me, the self we've spent so much time building and protecting. But here's the twist. If there's no permanent self, as Anatta teaches us, then what is there to lose? Death, instead of being the ultimate end, becomes just another change in the flow of existence. Think of it like a river. The water you see today isn't the same water you saw yesterday, and yet the river still flows. Your life is much the same. The body changes, thoughts come and go, and experiences shape and reshape you constantly. Death is just one more shift in this endless cycle. When you stop seeing it as a threat to the self, it loses its grip on you. Here's an exercise to ease the fear of death. Try reflecting on impermanence in your daily life. Watch a candle burn down or observe leaves falling from a tree. These small acts of change mirror the natural cycle of life and death. They're reminders that endings aren't something to dread. They're simply part of how the universe works. And what about legacy? Many people fear being forgotten. But when you embrace Anatta, you realize that your impact isn't about building monuments or making headlines. It's in the kindness you show, the connections you nurture, and the positive ripples you create in the lives of others. These things live on far longer than any name carved in stone. Letting go of the fear of death isn't about being reckless or indifferent. It's about living more fully, appreciating each moment without being weighed down by what's inevitable. And as you shed that fear, you open the door to a deeper, richer understanding of life itself. But this isn't the end of the journey, it's just the beginning. There's so much more to uncover, to learn, and to practice as we explore these profound teachings together. Now that you've seen how Anatta, the Buddhist principle of non-self, can transform your life, it's time to put these teachings into action. Ask yourself, what would your days look like if you stopped clinging to an illusion of control? If you embraced change instead of resisting it? If you truly let go of ego-driven desires and fears? The answers aren't just theoretical. They're the key to living a life of freedom and peace. So, what's holding you back? Start small. Reflect on the labels and roles you've tied yourself to. Practice compassion without expectations. And the next time you're overwhelmed by anxiety or fear, remind yourself the self you're defending is impermanent. How will you begin? Will you start observing your reactions more mindfully? Or perhaps take a moment to meditate on the Five Aggregates? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you'll apply these lessons. If you want to dive even deeper, don't miss out on the Dhammapada. This timeless Buddhist text is a treasure trove of wisdom, offering practical insights into ending suffering and finding true freedom. It's affordable, and you can grab your copy using the link in the first pinned comment below. Before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another life-changing lesson. And if you're ready to keep learning, click the card on the screen to watch our next video. It's the perfect complement to today's topic. Thank you for watching, and here's to taking the first steps toward a freer, more fulfilling life.